Today we begin chapter 3, where we're going to be tackling inequalities. Whoa, Miss Chiefy. We've been talking about equations, where things are equal. So what is this brand new thing I've never heard of called an inequality? Don't sweat it. It's got a lot easier than you think. It just means, I'm going to take the word inequality, and we're going to break it down. We've got inequality, which literally means the state of being not equal. The state of being not equal. If we have this little symbol here, where the little side is on the left, little side on the left, L, we call this less than. Okay, so instead of an equal sign, you may see this little symbol, which means less than. You may also see it where it has a little line underneath, which means less than or equal to. Because it's kind of like a combination of a less than symbol and an equal sign, so it could be less than or equal to. Now, if it's the other direction, we call this greater than. And if it has part of an equal sign on it, then that means it's greater than or equal to. All right, so those are the situations that we're dealing with. Times when it's greater than a number or it's less than a number, and it might sometimes be equal or not. If you are looking at this situation on a number line, okay, where we have one variable, we're looking at a number line, we're going to use circles, and it looks like this. If it is one of the symbols with no equal sign, it's just greater than or less than, it's going to use what we call an open circle, and it looks like this. Whoop. Little open circle. If it has the equal sign in there, then we are going to use a closed circle, and you can think of this as kind of shading in that number because it might be equal to that number. So we have a circle, and we're going to shade it in, which creates a closed circle like that. Okay? So then if we're looking at a coordinate plane, that's where you have like your X and Y axis, and we can graph lines on a coordinate plane. We are going to use lines. And on a coordinate plane, it'll look like this. The ones that don't have the equal sign, we used what we call dashed lines, and it'll look like this. So it'll be a line, but it'll have holes in it, so dashes. And then if it has the equal sign as part of it, we're going to use a solid line because that is included, okay? That number is included in what we're looking for. So we're going to include that line by writing it all in there. We're not going to leave any spaces. That line's included. And I know what you're thinking. Whoa, Miss Chiefy, this is a lot to remember because before it was just equals. That's all we had to worry about. Well, now you got to worry about equals, or maybe it's not equal, if it's less than, greater than, if it's open, closed, dashed, dotted, what? Here's an easy way to help you remember. Angry man left the door open and dashed out. Because if you're mad, you don't worry about the door, you just get out of there. So, angry man, we're going to draw our eyes like this. Like angry. Left the door open and dashed out. See how that looks like a little face? Like a little angry face? Angry man left the door open and dashed out. So mad. But the sleepy man closed his eyes and had a solid night's sleep. What does that look like? Well, if you do your symbols like this with the little lines under it, it looks like little bags under your eyes, like you're sleepy, like you're tired, like Miss Chiefy on a Monday morning. So the sleepy man closed his eyes and had a solid night's sleep. Okay? So that's how you're going to remember what symbols go together, because that's really the hardest part of this. Everything else is going to be a lot like solving equations. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. Down at the bottom part, we read an inequality from the variable to the number, and we like to go from left to right. So an inequality like this is actually read n is, the little side is not on the left, so that means this is not less than, it's greater than. N is greater than 4. N is greater than 4. Well, what happens if your variable's on the wrong side? You got to rewrite it, okay? So we're going to rewrite it starting at the left with our variable. So we're going to rewrite it as n. Now, when we write our symbol, you can't just copy it like it is. You got to keep the little side close to the n because that's the side that's close to the variable. So I'm going to make the little side over here by the n, and it does have that equal, and then -3 is the number. So this is read as n is, little side comes first, little on the left is less than. So n is less than or equal to, because it has the little line underneath, less than or equal to -3. And that's how we would read that from left to right, just like you would read in a book. Okay? So let's take a look at an example, or at a few examples rather. All right, so we have these number lines here. We have R, we want all of the R values that are less than or equal to 6. So here's what I'm going to do. This is a number line. So at 6, I'm going to put a circle, and I'm going to put a closed circle because it has the equal sign. Then I'm going to take my highlighter. I'm going to use green. I like green today. I want the R values that are less than, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to shade, if you were to rewrite this bigger and make this into an arrow, it tells you what direction to shade. R less than or equal to 6. So I'm going to shade the direction that the arrow is pointing, which is this way. I'm going to shade my whole number line. Okay, let's do some more. Here I've got P is less than or equal to, turn that into an arrow, less than or equal to what? -2. So that means at -2, I'm going to put a closed circle. Why am I going to put a closed circle? Well, because it has this little equal sign. That means -2 gets to come to this party. It's included, so I'm going to shade it in. And where am I going to shade on my number line? I'm going to shade that way. So start at my point here and go that way, following the arrow of my little inequality. Uh-oh, this one's backwards. The number comes first, so I'm going to have to rewrite it. I'm going to do x first. Now this has the open side close to the x, so I'm going to keep the open side close to the x. It's equal to, and 6. So this will read x is greater than or equal to 6. And if I turn this into an arrow, it tells me which direction to shade. So at 6, I'm going to do a closed circle because it has the equal sign. And then I'm going to shade this way. So starting at my point, going this way. And that's how I shade it. Number 7 is in the right direction. X is little on the left is less than. So x is less than 2. It doesn't have the equal sign this time, so I'm going to do a nice big open circle. Okay, notice I didn't shade it in. And I'm going to shade in the direction of my arrow, which, yoink, if I turn that into an arrow, it tells me to shade to the left. So I'm going to shade this way. One more. Here I have n is greater than, because the little is not on the left, n is greater than, not equal to, -2. So at -2, do a nice big open circle, and I'm going to shade in the direction of my arrow, which is pointing to the right. So I'm going to shade to the right. And there you have it. That's how you can shade inequalities on the graph. In the next video, we're going to take a look at what to do when you have coordinate planes. We're also going to take a look at what you can do if they give you a graph and you have to write the inequality. So come on back for part 2.